Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hi, and welcome to episode 155 of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, Executive Editor of Total Retail. Joining me today is Rodger O'Keefe, Vice President of Retail Store Operations at Cycle Gear, a retailer of motorcycle parts, apparel, and accessories. We're going to be discussing how Cycle Gear has increased its store traffic and in-store sales through better staffing. Thanks for joining me, Rodger.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
So I think a good place to start our discussion is for you to tell our audience a little bit about Cycle Gear.
Yeah, so Cycle Gear is a omnichannel motorcycle parts, apparel, and accessory dealer throughout the U.S. We have 137 stores nationwide and continuing to grow about 8 to 10 stores a year. We've been in business for 44 years with our home office in the Northern California Bay Area. And really the goal of Cycle Gear has always been just to bring motorcycling kind of to the masses and share, everyone's passion for it. And that is one of our taglines we share is, fueling America's passion to ride.
So you mentioned, the extensive physical store presence that Cycle Gear has. 38 states you're in, I believe, 100 plus stores. What were, in a time when, so many traditional brick and mortar retailers are being challenged with, different factors. What were the challenges that Cycle Gear was experiencing in terms of optimizing your store traffic and sales, as well as staffing, when we kind of bring that into the conversation as well?
Yeah, so originally some of the challenges we were seeing, and I think retail was seeing, was kind of trying to standardize staffing to fit a customer base instead of, and essentially force the customer into what the retailer wanted to do. And we were starting to go down that path, and we had a wage model and a hours model that we were going to follow. And after a while, stepped back and kind of looked at it and said, is this really following when our customers are shopping and buying? And how about we go based off what their behaviors are and really tailor not only our staffing model and when our teams are on, but our best team members are on when the traffic was there. So one of the challenges we faced with that, though, was making sure we had an accurate way of understanding when traffic was coming in for us. We are a very cyclical industry, so we go with the weather. Not many people like to ride when it's snowing and 20 degrees outside. So understanding that across the country and within our brick and mortar stores was very key, and that was kind of the challenge that really presented itself, is how we could better optimize our staffing level based on what we were seeing from our customer flow. So let's talk a
little bit about the stores themselves. Are they generally, you mentioned, all the different states that you're in, are they generally most stores around the same square footage and, require the same amount of team members at each store? And are you pretty much doing the same tasks at each store as, across the company?
Generally, yes. We have a kind of a 4,000 to 5,000 square foot store model. We do have a few that are a bit bigger, upwards of 26,000 square feet in some of our flagship stores, and also a few that are a little smaller. We do have 2,000 square foot stores out there, but in general, they're all right around that 4,000 square feet. And every store has similar operational tasks and things that need to be done day in and day out. The staffing itself, we go with, again, the traffic. So it's not necessarily around the size of the store. It's kind of the volume of the store is what we really found worked better for us. It allowed our stores to, still stay very clean and up to date and provide an excellent customer experience, but also be there for the customers and make sure that they're getting the service levels that they've come to expect from Cycle Gear.
So let's talk about some of the tools that Cycle Gear is using to help address those staffing challenges that you mentioned. You want to provide, obviously, a first-class experience for each and every customer that's coming through. So that, what are some of the ways that you're using some different tools to help you accomplish that?
Yeah, and as I mentioned as one of the challenges was trying to get some technology to help us be able to understand the traffic and the traffic flows for each individual store, not just as our company as a whole. And so with that, we about a year and a half ago partnered up with a company called Headcount, which is a traffic data and analysis company out there, and they provide camera systems to look at the front doors and the ins and outs of customer flow. But even more so, they provide a lot of analysis and reporting for each store, coaching on top of it. So that's been a big useful tool for us. And then our own personal in-house training using our current learning management software, and really deep diving into changing the way that our teams interact with customers based on the customer experience aspect. That's really, I think, the retail model going forward is going to be more around experience than necessarily, the old Sam Walton stack them high, let them fly mentality. Customers, I think, still want to shop brick and mortar. They just want to have an experience when they're doing it. So those two tools have really helped us be able to achieve that goal.
Did you uncover any trends that were surprising to you, whether it be kind of the seasonal nature of some stores or certain times of day or days of the week that you uncovered? Wow, we're seeing an uptick in traffic on, this time of the week, or, anything that, in terms of the trends that you've uncovered since you started working with Headcount that have maybe surprised you, or maybe it's just kind of validated what you believed going in?
Yeah, it's funny. Majority of it just validated some of the thoughts, but there were two specific instances that kind of stuck out across the majority of our stores. One was kind of this mentality that, we have a bit of traffic in the mornings during the week, and that really wasn't what was happening. And so store teams were so used to always scheduling, 2, 3, 4 individuals early in the morning from, we open at 10 a.m. in majority of our stores, from 10 to, 5. And then the evening, that last bit was left with 2 or 3 individuals. And what we saw in a lot of the analysis was that it should have actually been flipped. We could actually open up with maybe 2 more or 2 less individuals in the morning, and then from noon to close be stacked up with additional staff members to provide the higher level customer service. So that was the first really whoa, we've been doing it a little bit wrong. And then the second one was actually Sundays. Sundays we knew was a busy day for us, but we also we're open shortened hours on those days, 10 to 5. But we didn't realize how much we were leaving on the table in terms of, our customer experience and revenue by not having a fully adequate staffed team. And so with that, once we saw the data, we actually added money to the wage model, hours to the wage budget, which most retailers don't do too often, is add money back into wages. Yep. We actually added more in this past year, and we saw a definite growth in our business by doing it.
So that's a perfect segue into the next question I was going to ask, Rodger. Is you talk about working with Headcount. What are the business benefits then that Cycle Gear has realized since it began working with Headcount about a year and a half ago?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, it's allowed us to definitely better optimize our staffing levels. But that's not just for the customer front as well. But what it's allowed us to do is be better prepared for the customers, but then it's allowed our store managers, our assistant store managers in the field to be able to get through some of the ops-related tasks in a more timely fashion, because they can almost schedule it out because they know when they're going to have a dip in traffic for the most part on average, or they know not to start a certain project because, hey, in the next 3 hours, this is our game time. So it's allowed them to do that. It's allowed them to bring in their new hires in at key points so that the training is more in the moment and more real versus kind of being hypothetical because there's no customers around. Hey, if a customer walks in, you would say this and you would do this. They can now go, hey, we're going to be busy from 2 in the afternoon to 6 p.m., let's just have you come in at that time, and you'll get to see firsthand. You'll get to shadow. You'll get to see exactly what these interactions look like instead of me telling you what it looks like. So those have been two of the biggest components that have helped us. It's allowed us to better optimize our schedules, hire in new team members that work within those schedules, and then be able to better train them as well.
So you mentioned that Cycle Gear is expanding its store presence, about 8 to 10 stores per year, you mentioned. So how does that kind of fit into the growth plans of the company? And I'm curious, kind of a second part of that question is how are you integrating what you're doing with your brick and mortar stores? Also, Cycle Gear has an e-commerce site. So how are those kind of two channels being integrated and trying to work together as we talk about kind of the omnichannel nature of today's consumers?
Yeah, brick and mortar definitely is going to play a very big role in our continued growth as a company. So there's definitely markets out there that we haven't got to. We are looking at some of our store models that can maybe benefit in areas that maybe don't require as big of a footprint, but still can offer our level of customer service and gear to consumers. So overall, brick and mortar is very important to us. As far as the two working together, we do have a very successful online presence as well. And the key is to how do you integrate them? Early on in retail world, and there would become a us versus them mentality between as you started to try to move to omnichannel. There was the store side versus the website side. Now, the companies that are succeeding that have brick and mortar also have very successful online presence. And the key for us is to continue to grow that. We've actually launched kind of an endless aisle special ordering system in our stores utilizing some of our website technology. And then the other one, though, and we're excited for, hoping to launch here later this year, is going to be kind of buy online, pick up in store, buy online, deliver in store, and also, being able to check individual store stock levels on items too, which is a very, very powerful tool we see for the future for us. Motorcycling is very, very kind of in the moment. You break something right there. You want to know where can you get it today. And so that's our, really exciting part about the omni-channel piece for us.
And then my final question, Rodgers, can you talk about any advice that you might be able to share with other retailers that are trying to optimize store operations and grow revenues in their brick and mortar stores?
Yeah, I would say the first and foremost thing is we're brick and mortar retailers. We're there to provide a service to consumers, and so the customer experience has to be very paramount. And then within that is your staffing and your teams built to provide that. And again, it was something that took our teams a long time to, it seems like a long time, it was only about a year, to really wrap their heads around it as we introduced these new tools that we were using around scheduling. You're going to schedule different. You're going to, instead of maybe 8-hour shifts, you're going to have 4-hour shifts and 5-hour shifts and 6-hour shifts. But they're going to be more spread out. You're going to provide such a level of customer service to the consumer out there that they're going to only want to come to you because of that service. Again, in this day and age, you can get anything and everything relatively quick. It's what separates all brick and mortar retailers is that level of service, in my opinion, and that's really what we're focused on, and I think all retailers should.
Great. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank Rodger O'Keefe of Cycle Gear for joining me today. Please check out our podcast channel page, mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher, but make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. Thanks, and I look forward to you joining us on the next episode of Total Retail Talks.